Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason and I'm your watch guy today. Today I'm reviewing a pair of watches from Kickstarter. Now these have come to me from WT Author, which is a brand from the UK. I've unboxed 3 of their watches now, so you may have seen them on the channel lately. Now I've dubbed them an Artisan micro brand from the UK, and I've done that because the way that they make watches is completely different to the way that I see other manufacturers making them and other designs and etc, etc. It's a very nice small company, and honestly some of their watches are next level insane, but I think that a lot of people will really appreciate their designs. They are already fully funded on Kickstarter. I have the link in the description if you'd like to get involved in that. There are still pledges that you can make to that, and there are other watches on there that you can also pick up during the campaign. Now, they set their target of 15k. They've already more than doubled that target, so they're doing pretty well. With that all out of the way, let's turn this camera around and let's have a look at these watches. Okay, so today we are reviewing the WT Author latest release. This is live on Kickstarter right now, and you can pick it up for £350. Don't know what that relates to and everyone else's currency, because we're not using Monopoly money figures today. We're using Great British pounds. This is their final countdown series, and it is their 9th iteration, their 9th series. So today I have in the 1982, which is this model here, and I have in the 1980, which is this green number here. Now I'll switch between the two throughout the review, mostly when the changes come up, but for the casing and the band it is pretty much the exact same watch. So let me start with the 82. We have a very huge guard around the outer edge of the watch. The casing looks like it's been split into 3 sections. You see the lower half here, the mid guard and the bezel. As well as that, we do have a screw down case back on the back here. As you can see, that shows off the Miyota 9000 movement in the back. These models are using the 9015, which is the simple date complication on the dial. It's a very robust design, a very almost militaristic instrumental type of design. It almost reminds me of a cockpit. So the dimensions of this watch are pretty important to the way that it fits the wrist. So it's 43mm by 43mm. It's 13.6mm on wrist. You'd argue that that's quite a substantial size. However, the short lug to lug, well, I wouldn't say short, but the suitable lug to lug of 49mm really does help to fit this to an average wrist as well as a larger one. The lugs here are 22mm. They are sort of separated from the rest of the casing. As I say, we do have this lower section here, and that's what the lugs are built onto. The upper section is acting more of a guard to the rest of the watch. It's a very unusual shape, but WT Author are not shy of using unusual shapes on their watches. This is their 40s line, I believe. So yeah, as you can see, they do like to think outside of the box with these pieces. Now, one thing that does really stand out to me, again makes it feel very instrumental, this watch, is this red anodized crown. Now it's a simple pull push crown. First position is the date, second position is the time. It is not a screw down crown, it is a simple pull push. We have a 120 click unidirectional bezel around the outer edge of this one. Now, when speaking to the guys at WT Author, they did tell me that they are going to fix the bezel action. It's not the worst in the world, but it does have a little bit of play in it, so it is good to see that they are going to pick up on that. As you can see, we have a nice grip around the outer edge, and that polishing really does accent the rest of the casing well, which is in a bead blasted matte type of finish. We have a triangle up at the 12 o'clock here. 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50 are marked in Arabic numerals, while the rest are marked with either these dots or these rather unusual U shapes. Again, feels very militaristic, very instrumental, these pieces. As we move to the back of the casing, you can see that display case back. Now this is the display case from the 70 models, the last iteration, last line. So they will be changed in production. That along with the bezel itself. We do have a sapphire crystal in this one, and it does have low levels of anti-reflective coating. Not enough to obscure the dial, but definitely enough to make it a nice, clear, easy read. Altogether, this watch is provided with 100 meters of water resistance, which isn't bad considering there is a simple pull push crown. That crown also is signed with the WT Author logo, which is a nice touch from them, isn't it? It is a really easy to use crown. The way that it sits like deeper than the casing here. As we move into the dial, that's when we start to see the first differences between the models. Let me just grab the 1980 and we'll start with that fella. Now, the 1980 does have a slightly darker case border, this shroud around the outer edge here. You can see that it's mismatched from the lower case. It separates that case nicely. I feel like this is more of a night vision type of operations watch. It's very unusual, however, I do feel like these will be a little bit popular just because of how unusual they are. I do like the way that the date window tracks off as if it's something on a 90s, 80s sonar read in a military base. The dial itself has a very aviator type of vibe to it with these crosshatches and the circular design on the center. Really does give you that cockpit type of feel to it. Obviously, the big difference between these two is the tint on that sapphire crystal. Now, you're either going to hate that or you're going to love it. Personally, I think it's quirky enough to pass. Now, as we look at the rest of the dial, you can see that the minute track around the outer edge gradually moves to a white or brighter colour around there. Again, that gives that type of sonar feel to me. We have Arabic numerals for the hour markers, and just beyond them, we have slightly smaller numerals. I say slightly smaller, very much smaller numerals to mark the seconds or minutes. The 050, etc. really does give, again, an instrumental type of feel to this piece. WT Author logo printed to the top of the dial, followed by the number 1980, which this watch is. Automatic down at the 6 o'clock, also referring to that 9000 series movement in the back. The handset is a very simple handset, just simple rectangular hands on this one with a black base and this outer edge which looks like it's been painted in a white to make it stand out slightly, and some lume in the center. Very simple handset, however that's probably what you want so it doesn't take away from the rest of the design, which is really the draw of this piece. We have a date window over at the 4 o'clock, as you can see there. That is not colour matched. It is quite simple again in design, and it takes the place of the 4 numeral around the outer edge of that dial. Now let me bring in the 82, which is a little bit more of a universal taste to the dial. It's not simple in any sort of way. However, it's more towards a classic watch than the 80 is in my eyes. Up at the 12 o'clock, we have the WT Author logo printed in red. Again, we have these instrumental lines through the dial. This separation of colour between, again, gives me that aviator cockpit type of vibe to the watch. The outer edge with that almost hazard type print, again, draws a lot of attention to the dial itself and draws your attention inwards. Once again, we have numerals, Arabic numerals for the hour markers. At the 4 o'clock, we have the date window, which is split between orange and white. Again, gives that hazard type feel with a massive orange arrow pointing towards it, just in case you missed it. Again, the same type of handset on this one, very simple with a black base and that print, that lume print on the centers. The 1982 is printed just below the WT Author logo and automatic above the 6 o'clock. Now, one thing that I am interested to see is the loom shot on these two. Now, loom shots do tend to get better on production pieces. These are obviously prototypes, so we have to take them as such. However, I think it is a good way to get a loom signature at the very least. So, let me get the lights out and let's see how these are doing. So here we go, exactly as I expected, to be honest. The loom on the 1982 is very clear to see, very easy to read also. However, the 1980 is a little bit dull, and that's probably due to that sapphire crystal with the green tint on it. Now, let me just refer to the 82 because that's really the one that we should be looking at here. Obviously, that one has a hindrance to it. The loom is well spread, well printed, and those hands, yeah, I am very happy with that one. No patchiness that I can see. It's starting to fade a little bit now, but not an incredible amount, or not an unexpected amount at the most. It's just as you would naturally expect. I'm quite happy with that loom shot. Now, if you are a big fan of the loom, I think that the 1980 is probably one for you to skip. Now, obviously you can see that the numerals are fully faded now. The handset will go next, but I do think that the green tint on that dial, on that sapphire, sorry, has a lot to answer for there, so take that into account. Now, there's not much to write home about on the bands on these pieces. They are simple silicone rubber bands. As you can see there, we do have some indentation on the back side. I'm not sure if that's to make a nicer fit, but they do fit really nicely to wrist. They're very malleable, very supple watch bands to get used to. We have a WT Author logo on the brushed clasp there, or buckle. Two rubber keepers, one that's held in place there, which is nice to see. That's a little added quality there in my mind. Plenty of levels of adjustment on there, and we have quick release spring bars on this one. Now, I am glad to see a rubber band on these, or not a metal strap, and I'll tell you why. This watch isn't the lightest in the world, so adding a metal strap to this would just really weigh it down even more. So I am quite glad that they have added a rubber band over that, and honestly it really does fit the aesthetic very nicely for me. Now let me pop one on wrist and we can see how they look before we get to our moan section. Here we go. So the WT Author 1980 series, or the Final Countdown series, really does fit well to wrist. Now, that is very greatly down to the shorter lug to lug than I expected. The casing itself is obviously not an everyday wear type of piece for me. I think that this is a statement piece. It's something to wear when you really want to catch someone's eye. I mean, you can't help but notice these. They do look almost straight out of a Soviet era film. Really lovely pieces, very individual, very stylistic, and I've said it before, I'll probably say it again if they ever work with me again. This is artisan watchmaking. It's not going to be for everyone. And with that, let's start the moan section, and I'll start straight away with this will not be for everyone. Now, these two watches are, in my mind, as a watch reviewer, as someone who sees so many watches and some of them start to unfortunately blur into one, these really stand out, and these aren't ones that I'd forget on any sort of level. They stand out in a crowd, they are stand out on a web page. They, yeah, you'll notice these indefinitely. You'll not forget them. I just think they're fantastic in design. However, as I say, they're not going to be for everyone. So let's talk about what could be the downsides to this piece aside from the style. Now, the green tint on this is very unusual, and it's a very nice thing to see that they've really stepped outside the box and imprinted this type of sonar type of feel to the watch, and that's a fantastic thing to do for a certain level of people. I think a lot of people will be really put off by that also. It's not going to be for everyone, and it does, for me, affect the loom quite a bit. Obviously, that loom shot isn't, well, it's not complementary to WT Author in any sort of way. As well as that, it does hinder the readability of the dial slightly, not much, but slightly, enough to be mentioned, I believe. Another thing to mention is that they are not small watches. They are rather big, rather chunky, and as I say, not going to be an everyday wear. I would have also liked to have seen a screw down crown. I just feel like that's a little bit of quality that we should have seen in this one. Aside from that, I think that these watches are, yeah, fantastic. Really, really unusual. Really, really unusual. And I reckon that there's only 50 of each model available. I think that's a good call by WT Auto, because I don't think these are going to be like across the board, everyone loves them. I think it's going to be for those individuals in the crowd, for those 1% type people, because I think you need some balls to wear this type of watch. And I've really enjoyed wearing them, to be quite honest with you. And I'm going to enjoy keeping my one that they did send me for review. These ones, unfortunately, do have to go back to them. And the next time we see these pop up will hopefully be through production. Well, it will be through production because WT Author are fully funded, completely funded. In fact, they've gone another step. They have already hit double the funding that they originally set out for. So yeah, you can tell that they're popular. £350 for my Ota 9000 series watch with this type of design and this type of individual characteristic. I think it's a steal, to be honest. Artisan watchmaking at a steal. So guys, there we have it. There's two of the pieces from the final countdown range from WT Author. As I say, absolutely incredible watches. They're not going to be for everyone, but you know, keep your mind open. I'm sure you've enjoyed this review, looking for something a little bit different today. Now, if these designs don't quite take you, but you do like the style, there are plenty of other options in this campaign. There's only 50 of each one, so you know, be quick. I think this goes through to the end of May, so you still have some time to get onto the campaign, and there's also other add-ons for earlier iterations of their watches if you'd be interested in having a look at a couple of them. There's quartz and automatic available for a range of prices, so definitely worth having a look at. Thank you for watching this one, guys. I hope you've really enjoyed seeing something a little bit different. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, and if you want to check out WT Author, website and Kickstarter is in the description. I hope to see you in the next one.